we're rehearsing, we're doing some final blocking. We're in Dover Street Market at Paris Fashion Week, and we are able to do this amazing show here tonight because of the support of Pornhub. And we are doing a performance with the amazing dance music group Billy Egg, and I'm also being a little bit of a part of it myself, so I'm very, very grateful. And we're just relaxing, we're chilling, we're just getting the final things tweaked.
What about that hair?
Well, it was taken after you, darling. You were definitely on the mood board. I wanted something a bit unhinged. There's a famous film scene in Fellini. Fellini's, I think it's 3.5, where there's this kind of crazed woman dancing in front of a bunch of Catholic schoolboys, and I just love that scene so much.
Oh, the fat woman.
The fat
on
woman,
the beach.
and I just wanted to be her, basically.
Yeah,
so
she's amazing.
I think there's something really interesting about always elevating upwards when you're doing something in a kind of queer way. Always elevation. In the shoes, in the hair, in the shoulders. You'll see my look later.
Now that's interesting. I mean, my shoes and hair fit into that.
Oh, massively so. Massively so.
So, like art, music, performance, it's always been part of your design vocabulary.
100%.
Like from the beginning, right?
Yeah, I think because my work started from nightlife. Loverboy was a club night, so I kind of had this baptism of fire in, doing pieces of work with different queer performers. I was dressing people for my club night, and I think I wanted to take that world with me when I started getting asked to do runway shows. And also, I feel like people are working so hard for 6 months, and they're kind of watching something for 15 minutes, you want to give people a show. I think there's something really innately human about kind of gathering together to watch something. It's like gathering around a fire. And I think, I've been to so many shows where it's just clothes walking down, and I just find it such a waste of time. And I just think, why not give people an opportunity to see how all these creative endeavors all flow and bounce off of each other, I think that's why it's so important for me to always bring that idea of performance into my work.
Because during COVID, did you do a record, or what did you do?
Yeah, so, music plays such a huge role in my design process. I even started making music myself and collaborating with one of my favorite musicians from the horrors. And we made an album called Neko, and we did loads of music videos. We did this audio-visual kind of way of expressing the clothing. And, for me, it's just this opportunity to just try and push the boundaries of what it is to actually, express fashion today. We've got the advent of technology, of social media. It does warrant that idea of, being within that sort of, space of performance. And, we're living in an economy of attention grabbing now, and why not do it with class, with dignity, and do it using the tools that people have used for years, rather than just kind of screaming and shouting propaganda. Let's actually use our bodies and dance and move and use the beautiful art of music and how those things flow together and dress them in the same fashion,
And how did it start, this collaboration with Pornhub, that brought you to Paris as opposed to doing something in London?
So for me, I've always been interested in what is happening now in adult entertainment. This is a huge reclamation of the male gaze. We've got all of these different genders now using adult entertainment to fund their way of life. And I think Pornhub has been doing such an amazing job with lots of designers who are friends of mine in being able to support them to do their showcase, and also just being able to give a brand an opportunity to speak to that space. I think people have maybe seen us as being quite theatrical, maybe quite cute and playful in our aesthetic, but there's always been a darkness, and there's always been an edge and a sexiness. And I think for me it was so important to collaborate with a partner that allowed that moment to really blossom. And I think it's so important to give people a different perspective of, a different lens to view your work in. So we met with them. I thought it was so important that the prints that we created for the collaboration also came from that same sort of conversation that I was having with them at the beginning. So we got both of my fit models, who are both non-binary, to kind of do a slight ode to Maplethorpe and wrestle and sort of tussle. This idea is echoing now in the show that you're about to see, because it's this idea of a metaphor, for what's going on in the world. There's always a battle of two sides. There's left versus right. There's the idea of being two genders and that the gender is a spectrum, you know. So I wanted to have this kind of idea of a battle be encapsulated in the prints that we're doing also. And then this idea of being able to reclaim that space and just show beauty, you know, like I think, you know, it's not just one thing. Adult entertainment is just not a thing to get yourself off from. It's actually so beautiful. And there's people like Matt Lambert, who I've collaborated with so many times, who's also done work with Pornhub, who's completely changing the landscape of what adult entertainment is now, making it beautiful. And, you know, if you think about Pink Narcissus and James Biggood and everything, you know, there's this whole movement that is around the body, the queer body especially. So yeah, for me, it was just a really great opportunity to just siphon all of that into a collaboration.
And the actual collection, it's in Dover Street?
Yeah, so we're sold in all the Dover Streets. Dover Street have been a huge supporter of my brand since the very beginning. They were my first ever stockists.
Really?
Yeah, famously Ray Kawakubo came to my stall when I wasn't there and picked up every single thing on the rail to say that she wanted it in the stores. And they just continue to be a huge beacon of light for me, and showing how a retail conglomerate can also be so many other things, you know, like the show itself is a list of things, you know, I am a product, I am a queer, I am a freak, I am a whatever. And it's just this representation that we are multitudes, you know, we're not just one thing, we're not to be categorized, you know, we're not to be just siphoned in so that you can check a box or be put into a algorithm, you know. That's why working with stores like Dover Street, companies like Pornhub, you know, musicians and dance troupes like Bully 8, we're all multitudes. Loverboy is not just clothing, it's a multitude as well. So I think all of these things kind of coagulating together makes so much sense for me.
And how's it going to work tonight? Because it's 7 to 9:30.
So
It's like,
for a presentation, it's always a little bit more difficult because you have to have a representation of the clothing for someone to walk into, and also the kind of narrative and the sensibility. So, you know, some people might come in and leave for another show, so you want to give them something that really, really kind of like stays with them. And I think giving something really specific, as, you know, people walk in, they can see exactly what it is, but then we're toying with that specificity, you know, it kind of gives them hopefully something to take away from. But it's going to be magical, it's going to be powerful. I kind of want people to feel that they can't leave, because it really feels like that when you watch the show. You're probably not going to believe there were people late for shows, I'm hoping, because of this one. So yeah.
do you think this will start at 7?
It starts at 7-ish, yes. Yeah, 7-ish. No, we've got a plan in place, it'll be fine.
Okay. And on your videos, on your TikTok, all the time you're putting together your makeup and stuff. I always love it. So can you talk a bit about those beautiful eyes?
So I mean, for me, makeup's always been a big part of my life. You know, I've always sort of used it as a form to sort of like amplify the clothing as well. We would do as much research as the collection as we would do into the beauty looks, and I've worked with some of the most talented makeup artists in the industry, you know, and really been able to sort of like subvert what makeup can be in relation to fashion. And you know, it's also been a really great tool for me to explore my own identity, my own gender, you know, actually understanding that when I wear makeup I actually feel more masculine. I might be adopting more of a feminine look that I feel, you know, more in touch with my own state of being. And I think it's so important that we have these tools to help subvert these kind of like pre-prescribed ideas. And, you know, recently we've been awarded a grant from Estee Lauder to start making makeup as part of the brand. So, you know, it's a huge validation for me last year. And hopefully this is the kind of space that I can also bring this world into, because I don't see myself in the brands. You know, you see a lot of representation in terms of race, and you see a lot of representation in terms of maybe, you know, drag is really filtered nicely into the makeup space, and you have like very kind of snatched divas and, you know, very kind of cunty Kardashian boys and she's and theys. But I still don't see myself. I don't see this kind of eclectic John Waters-esque kind of person, maybe for a collaboration, but not a brand. And there's so many weirdos out there that want to buy into a brand that speaks directly to them. You know, there's already got proof of that, of people who are buying into my collection already. So yeah, I'm really grateful for the ability to be able to delve into that space and create some stuff for not only my visage, but other people's.
And you just did a retrospective, your last collection. Like, tell me a little bit about how that came about and how that feels.
Yeah.
But when did we meet? We met when you were at the LVMH prize?
I believe so, yeah.
How long
I
ago
believe
was
so.
that?
That was 2016, I believe. And then I did another one in 2017.
So your business has existed for 10 years.
Yeah, so I mean, since the start of the club night, so since the first club night, that was 1st of August 2014. And, you know, I still class that as the birthright of Loverboy. You know, we've been doing fashion collections for around 8 years. But, you know, for me, it was the whole kind of project since it started. And to be given an opportunity to, you know, do a retrospective in the space where we do our work, you know, in this kind of big grand building. You know, Somerset House is such a beacon for, you know, inclusivity and diversity within the arts. You know, it's this really grand space, but underneath it, it's this kind of like tunneling system of artists. And, you know, they gave us so much support in creating this space. And I think it meant a lot to people to be able to go in there and sort of see themselves and, you know, actually sort of see how a brand can be more than just one thing. It can start from a collective of people and then it can become a solid business, but still hopefully like continue to speak to a message which is, you know, really important for people, especially now. So yeah, it felt amazing to have that opportunity.
And there was an interesting casting too. This is the last question.
Yeah, we had a really interesting cast. You know, I worked with one of my idols, Katie Grand, who I've worked with for a long time, and, you know, I thought I wanted to bring the noise, you know, with her, and she brought her, you know, talent with her. We had Beth Ditto arrive. She was just meant to be at the show, and then she decided to close the show, you know, and it was amazing. It was just like a real higher power moment, like things just fell into place. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that opportunity.
Super, thank you. I'll see you later.
Thank you. See you later.
Can we